Call to order. Board of Zoning Appeals for March 11th, 2024. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our February 26th meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Staff, we do have a cancellation of the April 8th meeting.
Well, we do want to cancel the meeting. It's the date of the solar eclipse. Do have just a little bit of discussion. Right now, we have one BCA item that would have been scheduled for April 8th. Wondering if we feel it's necessary to have a special meeting for this petition, or if we would like to delay them till our next regularly scheduled meeting. We've already alluded that this might happen to the petitioner, and just need some direction for you whether or not you feel that we can push it back to another regularly scheduled meeting, or if we want to have a meeting on Tuesday.
So I would have two questions. One, how was the agenda for that meeting on the 22nd?
As of now, there's nothing for BCA, and I think, I don't care about any questions here, so nothing on
We
BCA,
care,
but
not.
Not really.
Two
member.
two
uh,
So it would be the only item on the 22nd at this point.
well, actually, there was a second variance to come in, but yeah, it was just
Okay.
two.
And was there pushback from the petitioner on waiting the 2 weeks?
It didn't seem
In that case, I
to
would
terribly
suggest that
concern.
we move it to the
So
22nd.
there's no impact that they're gonna have.
We have a motion then to cancel the April 8th meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Milboard to cancel the April 8th meeting. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0 to move to cancel the April 8th meeting and move any content to the April 22nd. Any other requests or continuances?
None from staff.
There are no findings of fact to finalize. No old business. Any old business from the floor? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. First on the agenda is EZA 2024-002. It's a development standards variance for 790 North US 31, which is for the food service. Petitioner Jack Voss requesting relief from the UDO to general sign regulation, electronic variable message signs to allow an EVMS within 300 feet of a residential use. All those wishing to speak to this, please stand and be sworn in by our secretary. Is there anyone here to speak to this?
Petitioner is supposed to be joining by Zoom. I don't know. Yes.
So I'm assuming they are not joined. It does not look like currently.
I am here. This is Jack.
Oh, hi, Jack. Hi, Mr. Voss. Okay, we can barely hear you.
Let me see what I can do. I'm going to shut down my computer audio because I think I'm coming through on the phone better.
Okay.
I apologize. I have a brand new, my computer went down, so I have a brand new computer and it's not set up yet. And so I apologize for the difficulties. This will just take 1 second.
Or us.
Is our IT have anything to fix?
See what happens when he joins by phone, but. I feel like this happens to these two speakers. Well, I don't know.
With the
She
swearing
does,
in.
right?
Yeah.
She has to have this.
Swear in.
Yeah, they have to have the oath administered because they're testifying.
I think I'm here now.
Mr. Voss, do you not have video available, visual?
I do not have video available, but I can certainly swear in.
Yeah, I'm trying to get ruling from our legal on if we can do a swearing in without visual.
Is an iPhone pretty?
Because we cannot see, sir, if you were raising your hand to take the oath.
Let me see what I can, do. How about if I, whoops. Let me try to get you on my phone a minute.
Okay.
Sounds like it shouldn't be approved.
No.
Can you see me right now?
No, we do not.
Okay, hold on here. Okay,
Oh, wait. We might have you.
have a white shirt on.
Hang on, we've, it looks like we still just have a couple versions of audio with you, but no video.
iPad is connecting, looks like. That's his.
He's got to turn the video on.
It doesn't look like it's in.
It's connecting to audio now. Somebody is. All right, Mr. Voss,
Yes,
I am going to go forward with the next item on the docket and come back to you while you work to see if you can get connected through video.
okay,
Okay?
Yep.
We'll come back to you. All right, we're going to move to BCA 2024-003. It's the development standards variance for the northeast corner of I-65 and East Main Street. The petitioner is Russell Brown on behalf of Racetrack. They are here for to allow a commercial PUD to be less than 20 acres in size. All those wishing to speak, please stand and be sworn in by our secretary. Yes. Is there anyone online that is wishing to speak to this? Okay. Seeing none, we'll have the folks here that were sworn in. Staff, is everything in order?
Everything is in order and in our files.
At this time, I would submit into the record certified copy of the Unified Development Ordinance and the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Okay. Name and address for the record, and then also if you would fill out the sheet that, so that we get it correctly spelled and everything.
Yeah, so for the record, Russell Brown, law firm of Clark, Quinn, Moses, Scott, and Drawn, 320 North Meridian Street, 1100 in Indianapolis. Also with me tonight from Racetrack, Zach Sin and Brendan Sexton. So our request tonight is what I would.
Yeah, is the mic on, or are we just not picking you up? Maybe tap. Can you tap on the mic? Sound like it. Oh, it is. Okay. There we go.
The request, is that better? Okay. The request tonight is what I would categorize as more a procedural matter than you as the Board of Zoning Appeals might often see. As you'll remember, Racetrack has been working for nearly 3.5 years to locate a new fuel facility at this parcel. Over the years, we've had a variety of approaches to that request, but all of them included the variance of use component because Racetrack's use and size are not permitted in the IM classification. During each of those applications, both in 2022 and in August of last year, one of the concerns raised, I think, by Mr. King, at least at one point, was why Racetrack did not pursue rezoning instead of seeking a variance of use. So after last August denial of the variance of use, which came despite the efforts of Racetrack to eliminate the remonstrance of the nearby road ranger owner, Racetrack began in September conversations with staff about filing a PUD at this location. We began the process of putting together a PUD ordinance to do a handful of things. First, it would codify the requests received, discussed, or agreed to through the various zoning discussions, including the enforcement, utilization of a right-in, right-out entry and exit onto Main Street, so long as Main Street remains without a median at this location, and various design and architectural standards for improvements on the property. Secondly, here we believe a PUD would allow for the mandate for the dedication or donation of various public infrastructure, public improvements at this important gateway. Talked about and committed to gateway signage, donated property, trail connectivity, those improvements of the like. Third, we believe it would allow for the tailoring of permitted uses at this location, which could be successful uses given the restricted access which is necessary for the safe traffic design through the current configurations of the NDOT limited right-of-way. We've heard in our various discussions that there are uses which stakeholders have concerns about, both in the interstate commercial, commercial medium, commercial large classifications on the subject property, all of which would be logical down zoning, IN zoning. So petitioners believe that a tailored PUD with various uses or limited uses being included or excluded based on the input of stakeholders is a benefit not available through the variance of use process and arguably not available through the straight through zoning process. We were under the impression through those various discussions with staff that such an approach may have an opportunity to be more favorably considered for the development of this full development opportunity, and frankly, without another visit to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Unfortunately, our pre-filing meeting for the PUD filing in January, we inquired about the 20-acre threshold included in your ordinance for a non-residential commercial mixed-use PUD. At that point, we were informed that such a requirement could only be waived by the filing of a variance, bringing us here tonight. So I'll start with a point of clarification. The staff report and the mail notice refers only to the piece of property owned by the Windhorse Trust. To be clear, Racetrack's intentions have been and continue to be that any racetrack development will include the proposed relocation of a U-Haul facility on Main Street to a parcel within the larger project. The application filed, site plan, legal descriptions used for that purpose, included in our mailings, all have made that clear. Apparently that was something I overlooked, staff overlooked in the preparation of mail notice. Nonetheless, I think that's something we can sort through depending on the outcome of tonight's petition. I want to be clear about that at the outset. As a reminder, to meet the obligations of a dimensional standards variance, we have 3 findings of fact. We've provided our proposed reasons and proposed statements of findings of fact to which staff has responded. As per your custom, I'll read those at the conclusion of my presentation, but I wanted to take issue with 2 of staff's responses to our proposed findings. First, we're of the opinion that a PUD process will allow for a more tailored development of these parcels. We believe that tailored development will allow for a narrower choice of uses than a straight rezoning, but will also allow for that creation of gateway infrastructure at this corner. We believe all of those things will be beneficial to the community. Staff's response to our proposed findings assume that the petitioner will be presenting a proposal which is of higher density or intensity than would otherwise be permitted. Candidly, at best, this is an assumption which we don't believe is accurate based on the current plans. It assigns motives to the applicant. They're somehow going to try to jam in 20 acres of development into 15 acres. It would be my belief that this assumption is not only likely not true, it's premature. It's also a matter which is for the Planning Commission and the City Council to consider based on the plans actually before them, not based on assumptions or assigned motives. Secondly, staff indicates that a reduction in the size of the PUD does nothing to create a unique product. Again, I would argue that this is staff making a value judgment based on a not yet made PUD filing. which is not actually the question that's before the BZA tonight. If this variance is granted, and the planning commission or council feels that the PUD is not a unique product, this feedback can be given by those bodies in their discretionary roles. Petitioner would disagree that there isn't anything unique about what is intended here, but we'll again reiterate, that's not for tonight's discussion. We do believe that there is a practical difficulty, however, in complying with the zoning ordinance here. It is not practical or frankly realistic to add more real estate to the proposed PUD because there is none contiguous which could be added to meet the requirement. Petition, I've heard of saying that we're not making more land. We couldn't make more land to 20 acres here, no matter how hard we try. The petitioner did not sell off a bunch of property to leave itself with an unusable, unzonable remainder property. Conversely, the petitioner has been aggressive to adding the U-Haul property to its development plan to assess the issues that can related to better lane access points, having better interface with Main Street. In addition to moving that U-Haul use away from the gateway of the community. But I'll reiterate, there's no other feasible way to make this a 20-acre, to meet this 20-acre requirement, which from my perspective is a textbook definition of practical difficulty. Further, as testimony has previously been given before you, nearly every willing buyer at a market price has had a similar desire to racetrack. We believe that the PUD process will best protect the desires of the community for high quality, safe property while eliminating uses not desired by your leadership. For all of these reasons, we would request your approval of this variance to allow racetrack to file a PUD that's less than 20 acres for commercial mixed use development. Mr. Chairman, if it's your desire, I'm ready to leave my findings.
Yeah, let's please do that. So number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
the variance will allow for a rezoning petition to be filed for properties which will benefit from a comprehensive approach to development, which is aided by the utilization of a PUD. The requested variance does not impact other standards applicable to a PUD. It does not prevent further discussions about the appropriate development scale of the subject property, but instead allows the rezoning process to begin.
number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
the proposed variance will allow for the consideration of a comprehensive review of the proposed development opportunities for the site, which is not as readily available for the parcels to be straight zoned and developed subject only to approvals by the rights of use. This more comprehensive approach will protect the value of adjoining properties and will allow for standard improvements within the subject property which meet the desire of the community as captured through the PUD process.
And number three, the strict application of the terms of zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
the property issue here is landlocked by recent developments, recent infrastructure supporting new development or public rights of way. There is no mechanism whereby the property could be enlarged through acquisition of consents of property owners to meet the 20-acre requirement to file for PUD consideration. Without the ability to create a PUD, the property has limited abilities to make adjustments driven by the market for the redevelopment of the property, which has significant frontage and limited access points.
and number four, the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3 for hazard air navigation. Anything else you would like to add?
I do not, but I know that the broker who's been working on this project would like to provide some testimony as well.
We do have 5 more minutes for your part of the presentation. So.
My name is Margaret McGovern. Full disclosure, my real estate partner, I'm a commercial real estate broker, and my real estate partner, Barbara Steer, and I represent Racetrack. I've been doing a lot of traveling. First of all, I've been where you are. The first job that I had with the city of Greenwood was on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I know how difficult it is to make decisions that are good for the city and also fair for everybody. So I've been there. After the Board of Zoning Appeals, I ran for city council and won. After that, I became mayor. I love Greenwood. We raised our kids here. We have lived here for years and years. It's a wonderful community. And we wouldn't be representing anybody who would diminish what a great place Greenwood is. I've been doing a lot of traveling recently and have had an opportunity to see racetrack in several parts of the United States. In every case, racetrack property was beautifully landscaped. It was clean. It was easy to get in and out of. I have the utmost respect, in addition to the fact that they're clients of ours, I have a lot of respect for the job that racetrack does. I think they would be a wonderful partner, corporate partner with the city of Greenwood. And I think that having a station there would be a very positive thing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McGovern. Anyone else wishing to speak for this? If not, anyone wishing to speak in remonstrance? Ms. Gibson? Yeah, we'll need to get you sworn in. Ms. Gibson?
Linda Gibson, 201 Elm Street, Greenwood, Indiana. And I have a question, just so I understand what this is. So would this be having a convenience store again, but under a different zoning, or what is the intention of what the property would be used for?
So I think that's what I'm trying, I've got some questions around that too, so I don't know if staff can answer that more specifically.
So I guess that is what I assume that they will try to apply for with the PUD. Russell Brown is correct, though. They are not before us requesting a specific use. Right now, they are requesting for the minimum, the size of the PUD to be reduced so that they can apply. They could apply for any type of PUD. It could be, maybe there's not even a gas station. We all know the history of this, so I think we can assume what they are trying to put in the PUD. But what is before us tonight is the size requirement
Variance.
in order to submit for a PUD, and that's what should be looked at and voted upon.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I respectfully ask that you remember all of the information that we shared with you when they were looking at doing a convenience store. And at that time, we talked about the amount of traffic and the accidents. You know, Greenwood is doing a study on Main Street that it's going to be 4 to 5 years, am I correct in that, Mr. Nelson, before there would be improvements to Main Street?
Yeah, I don't know the exact timing of that section of Main Street,
But
but
what
I
do
do
you
know.
think the soonest would be?
Yeah, it will be years out before Main Street would be improved unless there was improvements tied to the development.
So since we don't actually know what the intentions are, then we could be right back at square one of what we were trying to avoid with semi-traffic. But even if it's some other type of development, we were creating an entrance off of the, if they were westbound or if it was eastbound traffic, that they would have to go down and go in at a different entrance rather than directly on their property. And that we would also ask them to come out that entrance if it was semis. That was one of the things that I brought before you. So if you approve this, and I'm not trying to keep someone from selling your property or developing it, but the standards and the traffic issues and it hasn't changed. It's still the same property. And so I respectfully ask that if you see fit to go against what the recommendations are of our planning group and do this, I would ask that you not allow an entrance out onto Main Street, because that is right there adjacent to the entrance that goes on to 65 going northbound. And I don't know how often you go through that area, but that area is heavy, heavy, heavy now, and we're only making it more dangerous. Thank you.
You have 5 minutes to respond to that.
I'll be very brief. Obviously, the use is not before you tonight. And what's before you, as Mr. Nelson indicated, is procedural issue, whether or not we can file for a PUD request here. Councilor Gibson would have opportunities to weigh in on use and her roles in the community. And so I think if and when a PUD is filed, we'll continue to have those discussions about use, about traffic access, all of those things. But tonight, the request before you is simply one of, are you going to allow property owner to access the system, or are you going to say no? And that's the request that's before you. And we would respectfully request that you allow this property owner and their contract purchasers to have access to the system and to have, frankly, a discussion that's not been had, which is overall comprehensive discussion about the use of the entirety of this property, not just one use. The only subject that's been before the board. So with that, we would ask for your favorable vote. Thank you.
Ms. Gibson.
I'm sorry, I'll be brief, but do you really want to open this up to a blank slate without knowing more about what's going to be there and what you're including?
Thank you. Okay, close, or well, I guess staff comments first before I close the public hearing.
Excuse me. So, I mean, I think it's been pointed out very well that we're only looking at the variance request to do a PUD smaller than what is allowed. There's the whole point of a PUD is to develop something interesting, something different that does not fit into our code at all. This, we haven't seen the PUD yet, so we can't say for certain. But this just feels like it, asking for a variance is going against the line right above it that says PUDs are not to be utilized to circumvent the standards of this ordinance. The standard is 20 acres minimum. Therefore, we are not in favor.
I think to add on to what Kevin has said, there are many things that are permitted by right in this zone that would not require a PUD or a variance request from the Board of Zoning Appeals. To say that the only option is to modify our ordinance to go for a PUD, which would allow them to write their own standards. It does appear that they are trying to circumvent, avoid coming back to BZA, as Russell Brown said, by creating their own rules and standards with a PUD that they are not allowed to have per the lot size or per the total size of the PUD requirement.
Close the public hearing. Mr. Mull,
Not yet.
Mr. Milburn, any questions? Okay, Mr. King.
So what is the total acreage that we're at? Like, how close are, I mean, out of curiosity, I know Mr. Brown said 15, but is that the one parcel or is that the large parcel and the U-Haul parcel?
So it's 15.38 acres for just their parcel, not including the other, the small U-Haul, and there's another parcel that used to be at auto parts, but now there's food truck on it. And my map is not quite cooperating. It looks like those are 0.42 acres and 0.42 acres, so almost another acre, so
16 acres,
16
a little over.
acres.
So PUD of 16 acres.
That's close. Okay. Ms. Peters.
I guess I'm trying to understand the PUDs, they still have to submit what the plan is to another department. So it's not like they're gonna have carte blanche just to do whatever they want.
PUD is a zoning ordinance, so it would have to be applied for and come back to the plan commission and then go to the common council for approval.
So I mean,
So that is a
So-
zoning,
Planning commission would dig into what's your idea of what's going here?
the development, the actual
so
development.
what you are determining is, do you allow them to have a PUD for lesser than the minimum acreage required by the ordinance? Which is they, for a PUD for commercial purposes, they don't want it less than 20 acres.
That's correct. I think it's really, typically someone comes before you with a hardship due to an existing condition, something that's peculiar. To me, they just don't have the amount of acreage that is our requirement for a PUD. I don't think there's truly a hardship there besides the fact that they don't want to follow our ordinance.
If there's no way they can get 20 acres, then it's not a matter of wanting, right? It's a matter of a unique situation. The lot is just the lot size.
So, yes, every zone has lot size requirements, setback requirements, etc. If not wanting to follow our ordinance was a hardship because the ordinance does not allow you to do something, then why would we have an ordinance?
Well, I guess I'm gonna chime back in here, and I'll admit I'm the first with reservations about the idea of what may or may not be the use here, but it seems like we're trying to say you can't circumvent the ordinance for this use, when really we're not talking about the
Yeah,
use.
it's not
Whereas
before.
we on planning commission, if this gets to be a PUD hearing, we're gonna dig into the traffic, we're gonna dig into the, do we want this development or not want? We're gonna dig into all the technicalities of this. Is there a unique situation created by applying this? Maybe, because this is, it's a unique shape, it's got a lot of weird, unique boundaries to it. We've got NDOT, we've got other properties. I have to kind of wonder if, do we say, okay, you're not at the 20, let's let the discussion of the use go through the process? Because it may be the council decides no, maybe the planning commission may give it an unfavorable recommendation.
That's,
I
I
mean, it
guess
seems
my
like we're trying
question
to
is,
discuss
I
use
don't,
without discussing.
I'm not
use.
educated enough yet on the PUD process to understand, I guess, what exactly I'm voting
I guess-
for versus what their opportunity would be to go for a rezoning, right? Which would allow them to do what they originally wanted to do, again, whether that's what they're still trying to do or not, I understand. But a rezoning would accomplish a similar result, correct?
So depending on if it was zoned to a specific district and not a PUD, then no, it would end up back here for more than likely for variances. PUD allows them, it's a technically a zoning district that allows the developer to write their rules as they wish. Now, those still have to be approved by the planning commission and the council.
So it's not really,
Not
whatever
part-
they wish, that there really isn't the
Right.
bottom line. The bottom line is they're trying to get something established so they can move forward
With that.
and
Right.
deal with whatever parts of the government they need to deal with. But right now, they're looking at this, okay, let's get something going so we can at least talk about the rest of it later on.
But I think, looking at this, there was a reason this standard was set at 20 acres for a commercial. Commercial mixed use, PUD. That they just don't meet, and I understand that they can't do anything to make that meet it, but I mean, on this same lines, if I decided I wanna have a farm in my yard, even though I live in a city, have an acre lot, I can't have it rezoned to ag, which is a 5 acre minimum, just because I want to. I mean, I'd like to have a whole bunch of goats running around, but I can't do that.
You can still sell the house, you can still do something
Right.
different on the property.
Right.
That is within the current.
Sure, I can do my typical residential things, but I can't, I mean,
Right.
it's not a hardship, that's just what it is.
What the hardship though issue is whether or not they can meet the 20 acres, and they can't because of this, the parameters of the lot. It's
Right, and that's,
landlocked, and it's got other properties that
And-
cannot be moved.
But
and
they
what
have
our,
other-
what our position is that that's not a hardship, that's just a reality of
It's
the
a
land.
practical difficulty though.
Desire to.
Yeah,
if they
It's a
want to
desire to do
different
something
priorities.
different than it's zoned for currently.
I guess, let's maybe use an analogy. There's building height limits in all of our zones. Cities can regulate the height of buildings. Let's say we regulate a building height at 40 feet. Is it a hardship if someone wants to build a building 45 feet tall in that district? Or is it just a reality of our ordinance that 40 feet is our limit? Anytime someone doesn't meet something that they want, doesn't necessarily mean it's a hardship. It might just be what Greenwood's rules and regulations are.
I'm trying to find the words hardship in our rules, and I'm not seeing it. I'm looking at practical difficulties. It's impractical to be able to say that they can physically make this 20 acres. That to me is a practical difficulty. They just cannot make 20 acres out of this piece of land. It's not a hardship issue. Hardship is not a player.
May I ask, why do we set requirements for the sizes of PUDs if they're all practical difficulties that can just come to BZA and get a variance?
Well, I'm not saying all of them would be practical. I'm just looking
But
at this
how-
particular.
But use your
play
particular,
request, so.
use your particular reasoning for the other PUD districts. If I have 1 acre, is that a practical difficulty? I don't have 20 acres.
But are you gonna do mixed use development in that 1 acre?
I want to.
I mean, those are the questions before us. Is there practical difficulty? Is that the area gonna be adversely affected? Or the general welfare of the community gonna be adversely affected? Those are the issues we've gotta look at. Those are the only 3 things that we can look at. I heard somebody else.
Mike, I had a quick question. Is the whole property only 16 acres or is it like, because I'm looking at the diagram on here and it says out something parcel, out parcel property is 4.3 acres. Is that on top of that? Is that the whole?
The entire parent parcel plus the U-Haul lot is.
So everything in that red line is all less than 16 acres?
Correct.
It's still 4 acres short. I would love to see this be able to go and get the traffic studies and do all that, but it does seem like this is not meeting.
I can overcome criteria as 1 and 2. 3, the strict application is how do we say this is not being too strict? That's where, because frankly, I think we're really discussing use, and that's where the 2 of us on the planning commission, we should be having that discussion. Part of me wants to say this is a strict application. It creates a practical difficulty. A part of me, I hear the very strict, it is a statutory. We've set it 20 acres for a reason.
Doesn't help if you look at it as you have these 16-acre pieces of land. They can be developed as something.
Right, yeah.
Apparently, this particular petitioner wants to develop it as a PUD. Is it really a practical difficulty in the use of the property because it could be used as something if they can't come and do it as a PUD?
And that's.
Does that help you sort of
It does,
think
and
about
that's-
what you're thinking of?
And that's my challenge. I just, again, feel
If
like
that's the
there's a
practical
better
difficulty
way
you're
to
stuck
getting
on.
to the end result here. This doesn't feel like the right.
Can the property still be used? The strict application of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because that's the criteria. Part of the practical difficulties in the ability to use the property if they can't do a PUD as the use of the property.
Or is it a practical difficulty if they can't apply for a PUD?
You
To
think,
write their own zoning to
yeah, to
develop
say,
the
so,
property.
so the PUD allows them to write their own zoning, basically. It doesn't mean it'll ever get approved.
Right.
Correct, but is it a practical difficulty that they can't do that if they can be developed as anything else in their industrial medium zone?
Any other questions or comments from the board?
And is it okay if Kevin just reads the definition of a practical difficulty based on our state's APA guide?
I think that might be helpful. because-
Yeah. Sure, thank you. And sorry, it took me so long to find this. I know I have it up in my office, but I don't want to run up, leave. But according to our state APA, which is our state planning conference, the practical difficulty is more or less defined as something that arises from a strict application of the zoning ordinance, the conditions of a particular existing parcel of property is not as significant as the injury associated with hardship. That is, it does not deprive the parcel owner of all reasonable economic use of the parcel and is clearly more significant than compliance cost.
Questions any further? All right, I'll take a motion to admit all the evidence in the record.
Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mrs. Peters, second by Mr. Knoll. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. I'll take the motion on the docket itself.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny this request.
A motion to deny, second by Mr. Milborn. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 3-2. I know. All right, we're gonna move back to BCA 2024-002. So I do believe Mr. Voss found video. There you are, sir.
Yes, thank you.
We're gonna give just 20 seconds here for people to evacuate.
And you can hear me okay?
Yeah, hang on one second, Mr. Voss. Okay. Mr. Voss, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Okay. Go ahead and tell us why you're here.
This one.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna have you get sworn in. That's the whole reason we waited. So, have you raise your right hand and be sworn in by our secretary.
Do you swear on the this perjury? As Minister of Western Olives.
I do.
Right, is everything in order? Staff?
Yes, everything is in order and in our files.
And I now submitted to the record certified copy of the comprehensive plan and the unified development ordinance.
As you say, can we get those
Get the doors
doors,
shut.
please, somebody?
Thank you, Sean.
All right, Mr. Voss, tell us why you're here.
I am here because Gordon Food Service Store would like to install a message center onto the existing pylon sign at their store. They're going to be remodeling that store, and in so remodeling, corporately, they like to upgrade the signage, and part of that upgrade is to add a message center to the sign. They do that because it helps them to explain to the public the different services they offer, the different products they offer, and it helps the public know what they have in the store to, serve the public. And so they would like to put a message center at the store, but the rules that you have today would not allow that.
Okay, you are a little difficult to hear, but I think I caught that. I'm sorry.
Can we sit up there?
Yeah, it's really strange.
Like you can't hear them up here.
It's like these speakers aren't on.
That sounds good.
IT, are the front speakers?
Do you want me to try to call in on my phone and see if that's?
No, I
better?
don't think it's you,
It's
Mr.
coming
Voss.
out down there.
I don't think it's you, Mr. Voss. Was he in there? Check.
Yeah.
Okay. If you need to sit out there, you certainly
Yeah,
can.
it's a little muffled for me. You know, is it okay if I sit up there?
Sean, is there anything that would prohibit a member from sitting?
Here?
So you need.
No, as long as you can hear,
Yes.
I mean, as long as you come back up here to like
Also come back.
participate, I mean, you have to be
I
able
just
to.
wanted to go here. It's a little muffled for me.
All right, sorry about that, Mr. Voss. So you're looking to obviously install an EVMS sign within 300 feet of residential property. I think was so that they can diversify their messaging to the public. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you have your answers to the statement of reasons in front of you, Mr. Voss?
Yes, I do.
We do want to read those into the record. So if you would, number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
The proposed EVMS will be 257 feet away from the residential use. The apartments are behind the Gordon Food Service store, which blocks the view of the sign from the apartments. The sign will not disturb the apartment residents. The sign will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and morals and general welfare of the community.
Okay, number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
The proposed EVMS will not be visible from the apartments that are within 300 feet of the sign. It will not have an adverse effect on the apartment residents.
and number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
The ordinance does not allow the message center to be within 300 feet of a residential use. This creates a practical difficulty in the use of the sign.
and then number four, the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3 for hazard air navigation. Anything else to add, Mr. Voss, before I see if anyone else has comments?
Nothing more to add.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this? Seeing none, staff, I'll take your comments.
Staff is favorable of this variance. Essentially, they're just adding to an existing sign. We allow illuminated signs, but not particularly the EVMS signs within 300 feet. There are other EVMS signs up and down 31. It'll fit right in.
Mr. Nelson, anything to add?
Yes, one thing I would add is that it is a fair distance away from the residential buildings. It was close to, but not quite at the 300 feet. And then the building actually is between the sign and the residential use. So it will be shielded by the building, which will block the view from the residential area.
Close public hearing. Mr. Moll?
I saw in the requirements that the sign must automatically turn off between the hours of 11 PM and 6 AM. Do other signs down that street do that as well?
So that is a requirement with our 2020 UDO that if an EVMS sign is within 300 feet, that they should turn off between those hours. I would, some may be legal non-conforming if they're adopted previously. Newer signs would need to meet that requirement, and I would probably have to do a drive at around 11 PM to confirm that they were off.
Mr. Milborn? No. Mr. King? Mrs. Peters?
No.
I have none. Take a motion to admit all the evidence in the record.
Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, the petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. I'll take a motion on the docket itself.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the request with the 3 conditions in the staff report. To read those in, 1, the proposed EVMS shall substantially conform to the proposed sign renderings as shown in Exhibit D. 2, a completed sign permit application be applied for and issued before modifications occur. 3, the sign must automatically turn off between the hours of 11 PM and 6 AM daily.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Milborn. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Take a motion to direct the Corporation Council draft written findings of fact.
Having considered the statutory criteria, I move that we direct the Corporation Counsel's Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance to request presented in variance petition number BCA 2024-002, said findings to specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as a final decision, final action regarding this petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mrs. Peters, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. I have a question of procedure going back to the variance request that was denied. Did we need to direct written findings of fact on that since it was denied?
We have to prepare findings of fact for every single
So
action.
we did not do that, so I will take a motion to direct the Corporation Council to draft written findings of fact on BZA 2024-003.
Mr. Chairman, consider the statutory criteria. I move that we direct the Corporation's Council Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in the variance petition of the BZA 2024-003. Says findings specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding this petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Moll, second by Mr. King. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. All right, next up is BZA 2024-004. This is a development standards variance with 4 requests, relief from the following sections. Number 1, looking to reduce minimum setback from 8 feet to 6 feet on all RA zone parcels. Number 2, to reduce the minimum lot width from 40 feet and 24 feet for attached, 40 feet for detached, to 28 feet detached, and 20 feet attached on the southwest parcel. Number 3, to reduce the minimum lot size from 5,400 square feet to 4,400 square feet on the southeast parcel. And number 4, to increase the total percentage of garage to overall facade from 60% to 73% for the front load townhomes on the southwest parcel. All those wishing to present on this docket, please stand and be sworn in by our secretary.
Mr. Shu, to the best of your knowledge.
Is there anyone online wishing to speak to this document? Okay, seeing none, is everything in order?
Everything is in order and in the file, and one thing I would like to mention before the petitioner presents. The petitioner submitted identical answers for questions 1, 2, and 4. For all 4 of the variances that they're requesting tonight, only question 3 is listed separately for each variance. I would ask that we hear 1, 2, and 4 together for the sake of time.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Nelson. All right. Go
I
ahead.
would like to go ahead and submit into the record a certified copy of the comprehensive plan and the unified development ordinance.
All right, name and address for the record.
Good evening, Ed Hamilton with Apollo Developers, 8904 Bash Street, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Also, I will ask you, I haven't done that to everybody, but please fill out that sheet if you would, when you get a moment, if it's up there. Okay, Mr. Hamilton, tell us why you're here.
We're here to request 4 variances for a property that's zoned residential on the west side of Greenwood.
So let me go ahead and fill it out. And then go ahead and tell us about those 4.
How do I start the slideshow? Is it-
IT, could you pull up the slideshow for Apollo? Could you pull up the slideshow for Apollo?
I don't feel like that microphone's working very well either.
No, needs to be turned up or something.
Is it that? Can you hear me better if I get closer?
It does look better. I still don't think the speakers are on.
It's not-
Is it that one called Walker?
Yeah. Walker, yes.
Okay. Thank you. You can move on to the next slide.
And you will have the ability, it's a touch screen in front of you, and then if you use the key arrows, I think you can push the down or the right arrow to advance slides. Maybe not if it's in PowerPoint mode though, just a PDF.
Looks like it's a PDF, so it's going to be a scroll. I don't know if you can use your.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Just a brief introduction. We are the master developer of the parcel. We're not the home builder. We have 3 home builders that are planning homes on here. David Wheatley Homes, Reese Homes, and Fisher Homes. We've also gone through a separate process of getting the property rezoned, which was completed last year, or I'm sorry, earlier this year. This is a map of the subject location. It's on the west side of Main Street between 135 and Yorktown Road. It's actually 3 separate parcels. None of them are contiguous. There's a church and a school in between the 2 southern parcels. I'm just going to give a brief review of the 3 parcels and the products, and then go through the requested variances. So the north parcel is proposed to be constructed by David Wheatley Homes. The homes are very similar to the character of the homes on either side of it. There is, you'll see here a yellow line cutting through the property diagonally. That is an existing gas transmission line. The homes here are proposed to be single-family detached homes, minimum width of 52-foot wide. The standard product for the home builder is 40-foot wide homes, so that leaves 6-foot side yards on it. This is zoned RA, residential attached. Single-family homes are permitted as a permitted use within that zoning district. The request for this particular parcel is to reduce the side yard setback from 8 foot under the RA zoning to 6 foot. This will be consistent with the lots adjacent to it. And we'll go through the hardship for each, but the hardship with this parcel, you'll see here on the right side of the screen, there's a road proposed there. That's a That's due to, in the comprehensive plan, the request for a new collector road to run through this site. In addition, we have the gas line. Those two conditions on this parcel created difficulties with us meeting the necessary economic zoning or density on the site without the reduction in the side yard setbacks from 8 to 6. I'll go through the other parcels. This is, before I move on to the next one, this is an exhibit we created. You can see, this is on the west property. The homes themselves, the lots are actually a little bit wider than the adjacent parcels at 52. The homes are a little bit closer together existing, so we're trying to be harmonious with our neighbors, but this is essentially what we're looking for: 6-foot side yard, the 12-foot minimum between structures. Shifting to the southeast parcel, there's 2 zoning districts here. The yellow is RL. We are not requesting any variances within that zoning district. The orange properties are RA, residential attached, just like on the north side. The homes here are on the top half. They are rear load, which means they have alleys behind them with garages. The home builder, again, is David Whitby Homes. The lots are 42 feet wide. The individual homes are up to 30 foot, so that would again leave a 6-foot yard setback instead of an 8-foot. Just like the north parcel, there is a gas transmission line cutting through, which may, in addition to the space it requires, it's the angle. We have to kind of rotate and orient the homes, made it difficult to achieve the economic density required to make this sustainable. The second variance on this parcel is for area. So this is the product type that David Weekley is proposing. We're in compliance with the front yard and the rear yard setbacks of 20 feet. Their lots are, their building pads are only up to 65 or 66 feet deep. So having the deeper lots would result in an undesirable setback from the front yard to the either the public trail or the road, and having the backyards that result in extraordinarily long driveways. So the second variance for these lots is to have a minimum square footage for them to reflect the product type proposed on this in the zoning district. The southwest parcel is also zoned residential attached. There are 2 variances proposed here. Part of the site is proposed to have townhomes. There are actually 2 types of townhomes, each requiring its own variance. So the more purple townhomes at the top is a 3-story product built by Trees Homes. That's the top picture. It's got attractive front elevations that would face the public thoroughfare, as well as the boulevard coming in. So you won't see the garages, but they come off of an alley just like the other homes. The request for the 3-story product is to have a 20-foot wide lot. That's 20 foot for each unit. So that would be the very typical of a 3-story townhome constructed in the Midwest. That is a first request. Instead of having 24 foot, 20 foot for the 3-story, just having a 3rd story required a smaller footprint for each floor to achieve the desired total square footage of the home. The second variance associated with this is, and I'll go through it a little bit more detail here. Let's jump forward briefly. Here's a 2-tap a little button. It's these, the zoning ordinance requires 8-foot side yard setbacks. So if you have 20-foot unit, 8-foot side yard, that'd be 28 foot. The zoning ordinance requires 40. So we're asking that with the smaller 20-foot unit, that the side yard be 28 feet instead of 40. So then this one also shows that three-story units would be 20 foot instead of 24. I'll go back up.
Quick clarification, when you say side yard, you mean the lot width? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now to the two-story townhomes, that's the more pinkish units on the cul-de-sac. These homes have the garage in the front of the homes. There's a requirement for no more than 60% of the width of the homes to have garages. These units, this is very typical for a front yard, two-story townhome to have garages making up a large percentage of it. Just the nature of having a 20-foot wide garage versus a 24-foot home, which is the permitted width of the zoning district. So that's that middle picture, the white homes in there. These homes would be on a road that would be shielded from the public view. People who could drive down that road to access their homes would see it, of course, but it wouldn't be viewed from any other direction. That's the next variance. The last variance is on the more yellowish and brown homes. These are paired patios, and this variance request is also for the side yard setback. To go down to 6 foot from 8 foot. This is a little different scenario where these homes have the garages turn, one of the two garages turn sideways, so you don't see two garages on the front of these paired patios. And by doing that, we kind of have to shift the units closer to one side in order to fit that side yard garage. So we would still have 20 feet between the units. So reducing it from 8 to 6, we're still providing 20 foot between them. It would just allow it to get shifted closer to one of the two property lines. That's a request for that variance. And this is just an example of the two-story townhome. What they're trying to do. That concludes our request. Those are the 4 variances we're requesting.
Do you have your responses to the statements of reason?
Yes, sir.
So let's go through them again, as Mr. Nelson pointed out. For reasons 1, 2, and 4, they are all identical. And then number 3 will be different. So let's start with variance number, so let's start with number 1 for all 4 requests, which is the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
approval of this position was consistent with the residential development in the area.
And then for all 4, number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
building quality housing in this area is in overall conformance with the comprehensive plan. It will not negatively affect property value.
And then number 4 is the same for all, and I'll handle that one, which is the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3 for hazard air navigation. All right, so let's tackle the strict application. Number 3 for variance number 1, this is to reduce the minimum setback from 8 feet to 6 feet on all RA zone parcels. And the strict application of terms of zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
the gas line easement which cuts through the property at diagonal and the new collector road made the design difficult to accommodate all the lots required.
And then for variance number 2, to reduce the minimum lot width from 40 feet for detached and 24 feet for attached to 28 feet for detached and 20 feet for attached on the southwest parcel, the strict application of the terms of zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
the townhomes run the primary arterial, so the 3-story townhome product is used so that the garages are able to be rear lifted.
And then for variance number 3, to reduce the minimum lot size from 5,400 square feet to 4,400 square feet on the southeast parcel, the strict application of terms of zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
the gas line easement which cuts through the property diagonal has made the design difficult to accommodate the lots required.
And then number 4, to increase the total percentage of garage width to overall facade width from 60% to 73%, for the front load townhomes on the southwest parcel, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
The strict application of the zoning ordinance would not allow two-car garage doors with typical townhome woods. Great care has been taken to design the community in a manner in which garages are not visible from Main Street or when entering the community in the main entry drive. The neighborhood design limits the front loaded townhome products to interior roads only.
Thank you. That covers all of them. Anything else to add?
No, sir.
Anyone else have anything to add for this? Okay. Any remonstrators? No one had stood up earlier. All right. All right, we need people sworn in.
You swear on the perjury, testimony is true to the best of your knowledge.
Who wants to go first? You do have 15 minutes total, so try not to repeat each other. Name and address for the record.
Patricia Cheney, 242 Victory Avenue, Greenwood, Indiana, 46142.
Ms. Cheney?
In reference to the one that is currently on the screen, that is showing like it's still going to cut through Villa Heights, which the last meeting we had has said no, that would not be a through. Villa Heights is already impacted by Starbucks and Peppers.
So that this board has
So-
no, we have no jurisdiction over that.
Well,
So-
it was the last board that when we were here, that was shut off. They would not come through Hunting Creek or Green Meadow. There would be no access through our subdivisions. Now, Faith is a very short area when it comes
Excuse
to
me,
here.
This is a conceptual drawing. It is not the topic that is of discussion tonight. Tonight it is on the for variance requests. Currently, as it stands,
So why don't they correct the material so we see what you're seeing is what's being continually proposed?
when the petitioner comes back, we can ask them that question.
Okay, then the other question is, will this bring more traffic? Have they squeezed in some more housing? Is to take it down to 6 feet? What did they do with the land? Did they put in more houses, more apartments, more what? What happened to the land that they squeezed? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Sir? Hang on one second, Mr. Hamilton, hang on. Yeah, you said. Name and address for the record.
Thank you. Brad Nemeth, I'm at 512 Hunters Trail. I live in the Hunting Creek neighborhood, which is to the south of the current proposed southwest section. So I'm really, for me personally, for my neighborhood, referring to section numbers 1, 2, and 4. And I'm not against this project at all. I understood for a long time that there's a potential that something would happen with it. My concern with the request for changing the zoning, and to me, it seems like a fairly large request to change it, is right now, by my count, there are around 152 individual units and around 55 buildings, if I counted everything correctly, crammed into a 28.89 acre area. And the reason I'm concerned about the reduction of the facades and reducing the property limits that we currently have with our zoning is because when to me it's cramming a lot more into that one little area. And the reason that's a concern to me is because currently my house is a part of a drainage basin called the Villa Heights Drainage Basin. And they're actually, half of that current field floods into my yard during heavy peak rain. So like the other day, the overflow from that field floods into my yard, which is planned, it was planned that way. And then flows into the Villa Heights neighborhood. So I'm just concerned about cramming more and more in to that particular location of this particular section will drastically affect my area. So to me, it's, I kept hearing a couple times, economically feasible for more and more properties to be on there. There could still be a lot of economic feasibility if we still use the current Greenwood zoning standards that we have, after all, like we have those standards. So there would still be a lot in there, and that's fine, but there's no need to add even more as planned. So that's just kind of the basic information I wanted to mention.
Thank you. 5 minutes to respond.
Sure. I'll go in the order as presented. So I apologize that the site plan we're showing is the same site plan we had introduced at council for the rezoning. The determination of connectivity to adjacent properties will be addressed at the primary plat portion of the project. That will be coordinated with City of Greenwood engineering staff. There was a motion to add restrictions to those adjacent areas at the zoning, as a condition of the zoning, and that we will comply with any conditions that are required for this property, so which would include those connections. So that's just instead of recreating a concept plan and showing something different than what we presented last time, we used the same site plan. The second question is what happened. Again, this is the same site plan we showed when we requested the land use zoning modification. We did not increase the number of units that we communicated and showed and discussed at those meetings, and that's what's been permitted by the zoning. This is just to allow us to construct what we had requested and shown conceptually at the zoning hearings. The third question related to drainage. With respect to the economic part of it, I was kind of playing into what Kevin's language was earlier, where he described what the hardship is, and there was a component of that in there. The drainage we have addressed with an attorney that represented the groups in these areas. You can see in the southwest corner there's a small pond. There is a low area there that we're trying to collect the drainage and then sending it up to the main pond and across Main Street. So drainage it's currently designed to flow towards the southwest. Drainage will be now sent and drained through a detention pond and released at a slower rate. So it should be an enhancement of the existing drainage condition to the southwest from where it is today. I think that answers all the questions.
Okay. Thank you. If there's any other rebuttal back to that you have 5 minutes.
Just really quickly, I would just like to say though, again, you could have, based on what Greenwood zoning standards are now, still a lot of places in there. It doesn't have to be this many if the current zoning standards were used. So that, I guess that was my main point, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Staff comments.
Yeah, I'll just to address some of the questions. The number of homes or lots would not affect our drainage standards for the subdivision, so the density is irrelevant. It would need to follow our stormwater technical manual, and it will be an improvement to this area. So before you have a couple different things at play with this development and the 4 variances. One is that there is a gas line easement which runs diagonally across the bottom and north. Both the northern and southern parcels. This can affect the typical grid pattern that you might see. Secondly, you do not typically see this type of diversity of housing products in Greenwood. Our ordinance is not set up well to handle things like paired patios, townhomes, or the single family attached products that you see here. We've had many developers come forward with townhome designs and products who have sought to place their products in other municipalities that have standards that allow for townhomes. So I do think there is a hardship with our current ordinance to allow for a diversity of different housing products, which is something that our comprehensive plan and ordinance in writing encourage. The few things I'd like to mention, one of the variances is for the side setbacks due to the second garage being a side load garage. Planning staff prefers the side load garage to having two front facing garages. Visually, you will see less garage in that neighborhood if they're able to hide one of those garages as a side load garage. Other things to comment on. A couple of these variances are related. The minimum lot size going from 5,400 to 4,400. It's to avoid a very narrow, peculiar lot. If you're reducing the side yard setbacks but not reducing the lot size, it can get to be a long and skinny and awkward lot size to develop. Lastly, I'll mention the surrounding neighborhoods and character. For instance, on the northern parcel, the Stony Brook Springs subdivision and the Westridge subdivision, they both have requirements to have 10 feet aggregate between dwellings, which is an average of a 5 foot side yard setback. They're requesting 6, so they're actually 2 feet larger setbacks than a lot of the surrounding neighborhoods in this area. Either not on the south west property, one of them I just looking at aerial, it looked to be about a 0 foot setback. So these smaller setbacks are standard for the time period where the surrounding neighborhoods developed, of which this is sort of a larger infill product. Staff is in agreement with the petitioner's statement of reasons, and we are favorable for all 4 variances with the condition that the final plans substantially conform to the site plan depicted in Exhibit C and sketches depicted in Exhibits H, I, J, K. I will say that says substantially, not exactly conform. There is still work to be done with the primary plat, secondary plat, and any commitments that were required as far as access points, roads, the exact layout, but it should substantially conform to the products that they are describing.
Kevin? Close the public hearing. Mr. Mull.
No, I think I'm good.
Mr. Milborn? Mr. King?
I think my problem is using the gas line easement. They knew it was there. I mean, I've known it was there. So if we're gonna take the one docket item we said and got into the whole weeds of the strict application over a parcel, at least on variance number 1, I can't say that a strict application creates practical difficulties on the 8 feet to 6 feet. Just because everything else around it has smaller, doesn't mean that's the way we need to go. I'm looking at that area around there, I don't see anything really that great about that. I see safety concerns with less feet. We're putting a lot in there, a lot of demand for our services, and putting buildings closer together puts a hardship on them. So I think my concern really is only on variance number 1, is we don't we don't have a practical difficulty created. That easement was there, it was known, would have been known long before this process started.
Ms. Peters?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Do a response on that?
Do what?
Do we have, any response on these comments?
Does staff have opinion on that?
I guess part of the hardship that, the four variants, I guess, so you're saying on variance number one,
Because we're saying gas line easement is the practical difficulty. We've set a precedent saying that something can, for example, when we denied the docket item earlier, a practical difficulty in the size of that is NDOT property. Here, we've got gas line property. I'm just having trouble where we say in one instance.
yeah, I
it's-
guess I would point to, the path the easement is taking, where it's not, maybe the right of way or the frontage, it is diagonally, not parallel, cutting through the properties.
I think that makes it very difficult to develop that property to some degree for usefulness, whereas the other one was a very useful piece of property, just didn't happen to be big enough
I guess my sympathy
for
is
a completely different type of request.
limited with how this gas line being known. You could have easily planned around it. I mean, I get something, I live near it, I get something in the mail at least twice a year telling me it's there. And have for years, so I guess that's where I'm kind of like, is this really a practical difficulty when you would have hopefully known this was there?
I don't think the question is whether or not they knew it was there. I'm sure they're aware of it. They planned around it, but you do have to get more creative with your layout. If you have something diagonally bisecting your property, typically these are done in more of a grid fashion, with square lots. And if you're cutting through diagonally, it doesn't. Diagonal lines don't work very well with square lots for development.
I guess the biggest question I've got is how many lots are we actually talking about that have to be impacted, since it only touches on like maybe 5 or 6 different properties through there. If you're looking at the layout.
I think it's affecting the whole layout, no matter how many lots it's touching. Just a brief count, there's probably 27 parcels
So
that are
if we would
adjacent
say
to it.
no on that one, they could just increase the lot sizes for those lots then, because they're, the way that they're laying out. Just to
Now,
look at
there
those.
would be two choices. They would either have to make the houses smaller, less wide, because they can still make the same number of houses. Or they would have to make less houses.
And to be clear, my reservations are only on variance number one, that 8 to 6 foot, because
I mean, the 6 foot setback is not, it's not unusual. It's not something we have not seen, to Mr. Nelson's point, particularly in this board. Still with 12 feet between is, as he said, still a pretty significant setback between the two homes compared to many others that we've seen as well, so. And this has all went through, this development's all went through other boards at this point, correct?
It has went through the plan commission and the council for its zone map change. So it was previously AG agriculture, and they rezoned it to 2 different residential zones. Originally, they showed apartments, they talked with the neighboring communities and remonstrators. They removed the apartments to add the paired villas and rearrange the locations of the townhomes. It would still go back to Plan Commission for the primary plat. And then it would go to our technical review committee for its recommendation for approval for the secondary. Planning staff or myself could approve the secondary. And then it would also have to go to the Board of Public Works and Safety for its inspection testing and guarantees and bonds before anything could be released. So there are still a number of steps for it to take. We have not seen the engineered plans. Typically, they would want to make sure the variances are in place before they start to develop. If these were not to be granted or were to be granted, it could change how this project would go forward.
Okay.
2 hours.
Yeah, I know. All right, I take a motion to admit all the evidence into the record.
Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Ms. Peters, second by Mr. Mole, all those, Mr. Milborn, all those in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Take a motion on request number 1 to reduce the minimum setback from 8 feet to 6 feet on all RA zone parcels.
All RA, I'm just looking at the thing real fast.
Yeah, it's on all the residential.
So all 3 parcels.
Yeah, all 3 parcels.
I thought there was maybe on the gas line one.
No, variance number 1 applies to all 3.
Okay. So where's the gas line one?
No, that's just in the stat, that was in the.
No. Then I move that we deny that one.
A motion to deny,
Second.
second by Mr. King, all those in favor, raise a hand, all those opposed, same sign, that motion carries 4-0. Or 4-1, sorry, I said 4-0, it's 4-1, yeah, don't count myself tonight.
Voted in favor of denial.
Voted in favor of denial.
Yeah. So it's motion, yeah.
Make a motion on number 2 to reduce the minimum lot width from 40 feet for detached and 24 feet for attached to 28 feet detached and 20 feet attached on the southwest parcel.
I move that we can approve that one.
Any conditions?
There's
There's one on the staff report.
Yeah, I would say, follow the staff report's condition. Substantially conform to the site plan reflected in exhibit C, is that? The sketch is depicted in exhibits H, I, J, and K.
Correct. That is what is in the staff report.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. Mole, second by Mrs. Peters. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Number 3, to reduce the minimum lot size from 5,400 square feet to 4,400 square feet on the southeast parcel.
Mr. President, I move that we approve this with the 1 condition in staff report.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mrs. Peters. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. And then number 4, to increase the total percentage of garage width to overall facade width from 60% to 73% for the front load townhomes on the southwest parcel.
Chairman, Motion that we approve this request with the condition in the staff report.
Motion by Mrs. Peters, second by Mr. Milborn. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Take a motion to direct the Corporation Council draft written findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, I consider statutory criteria. I move that we direct the Corporation's Council Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in variance petition number BZA 2024-004. Said findings specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding this petition therein.
Motion by Mr. Moll, second by Mr. King. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Any announcements?
No announcements. We've already canceled the eclipse meeting, so just enjoy the solar eclipse.
Oh, we had a meeting next week.
Oh,
We have one more
25th.
before.
25th, okay, here's an announcement. I will not be there. That's why I'm not
That's why
taking
you're
it.
saying.
There you go.
Kevin will be here and everything will go great, but I will be gone that meeting.
I assume planning will be canceled delayed as well, or will we have a document? There are 2 of us.
We are planning on canceling that meeting.
I didn't know if
Currently,
we have a document.
currently, we have no docketed items for that meeting. And at our 25th meeting, which Kevin will be here for plan commission, he will make that announcement.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. Milborn?
I had a question for the boys over there. I called Ken Seal the other day, and he said there was a food truck going in on East Main Street on the west side of Burger King. Are they having parking there?
There's been one on that U-Haul house.
No, this is the other side of the street,
Okay.
south side.
I'm not aware of this particular food truck. Food trucks are a unique thing that aren't actually under planning and zoning. And if they do not have a actual restaurant, we do not regulate the parking. It would have to be on either private land that they have permission to use it on, or in some areas, there are allowances for public land if it meets requirements, but we do not have a parking requirement for food trucks, to my knowledge.
Well, the only reason I'm concerned, Commerce Parkway West Drive needs a stop sign, but we'll talk about that later. One of my people almost got hit today. Coming out of there, you got all, and then that goes to anything on Main Street, taboo with me, but nevertheless, I'm just concerned about, there was like a forest there. And they started tearing it down in an old house. It looked like Abe Lincoln's house, or tearing it down. I mean, really, it does. And, it could be on the National Register, but I'm just concerned about people stopping there. It's all grass, there's no gravel. Can they put gravel there, or do we regulate any of that?
So we do regulate parking requirements. It'd have to be a hard surface. Gravel is not an allowable surface for the new parking area. It would need to be either pavers, concrete, asphalt. And then, we are aware of the trees being cleared. We've reached out to the owner to inquire about that situation, although at this time it appears he is just clearing trees on his personal property.
So they say, okay.
I do have one more announcement if I have the time. CES did post an internship. This internship, we only have one internship slot available, but it could be for anyone interested in building, planning, engineering, or GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems. If you know of anyone who is interested in pursuing a job in any of those fields, anyone in the audience or listening online, please tell them to submit their application and resume with human resources. Information can be found on the website, or they can reach out to planning.
Yeah, move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, we are adjourned.